My name is Candace Young-Schult, and I live now in San Diego, California. I was privileged 25 years ago to go with children as teachers of peace to the Soviet Union. We took 48 children between the ages of 7 and 17 to Russia, to the Soviet Union, to the country that our nation saw as the enemy. I was one of 24 chaperones, and our job was to support the kids in their exploration and experience in the Soviet Union. Now, I worked in the public schools in Illinois, and I went to the Soviet Union, leaving my job for a while to go, and decided to talk to classrooms about why was I going and what did children as teachers of peace mean. And the kids said, well, they're our enemy. I don't know why you'd go. Maybe our kids can teach those kids how to be peaceful, but, you know, we're the good guys. And I said, well, if they're our enemy, who's their enemy? And they looked very puzzled and went, yeah, I guess we are. And that was very startling for them, because Americans are the good guys. There's no chance that we could ever be anything other than perfect. So I then took postcards from those kids and went to the Soviet Union, shared those postcards, came back and shared my experiences with the kids in the same classrooms I'd visited before. And they were dumbstruck. Really? They're like us. They play games. They go to school. It was marvelous. Now, my kids in Urbana, Illinois didn't even go to the Soviet Union. And yet, because of that trip, there was a shift in consciousness, a shift in awareness. For me personally, one of the most amazing experiences was when I was in the Pioneer Palace, which is a group sort of like the Y for Soviet youth. And they're wearing their little red kerchiefs, and we're going through the palace, and they start singing, "We Shall Overcome." Now, I grew up in the South during the Civil Rights Movement and have all sorts of emotional responses to "We Shall Overcome." And I just stood there bawling. The kids had a sense that there was a way to be different in the world, even as I had had a sense in the Civil Rights Movement that there was a way to be different in the world. And that just was, I still get goosebumps whenever I think about it. We did games with the Soviet kids. There was an experience in a big auditorium convocation center where there were huge balls, worlds of balloons that we bounced around, and there were art projects, and the kids were playing with each other and crafting things together in ways that I know changed kids' lives. Because when you play together, when you sing together, stereotypes break down. For me, watching those kids was marvelous. For me personally, I got laryngitis. And so much was going on, and lost my voice. And we were in a private home in an apartment, and this elderly Russian gentleman got down on the floor and was teaching me the lion. Ah! And he said, "You'll get your voice back through the translator." And I did. And ever since then, whenever I get a sore throat or laryngitis, I do the lion and think of this gentleman in Moscow who was so generous in his just spontaneous offering of healing. This was something he could give me, and it was just beyond belief. You know, it's not something you get when you just walk anywhere. The U.S. kids were more spontaneous. One could call them more rambunctious, perhaps, than the Soviet kids, who were very regimented and trained. And yet, when you got them together, they played and had a wonderful time. In Red Square, I was walking one afternoon with one of the other chaperones, and a gentleman came up, Soviet, in his mid-20s, with one red rose, and just gave it to me. An offering of friendship, an offering of peace. There's so many, as I think of the experience, there's so many things. And from what I know from what happened to the kids Some of the kids who were on that trip are now diplomats, have changed their life direction to be servants in the world for peace. It was fabulous. It transformed my life. Mahalo.